What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to episode 6 of the series where we connect the chapter and story from 48 Laws of Power to something in music or hip hop. And since so many people were asking for it, I finally put a link to the book in the description and I suggest you buy it. It should be mandatory reading for any man. Today we're going to take a look at 6ix9ine. If you like analysis videos on hip hop and rap, then subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Law 6 is court attention at all costs and reads as follows. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd then, or buried in oblivion. Stand out, be conspicuous at all costs. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. There are two different parts and styles when it comes to this, but for this video we're looking at part 1, which is surround your name with the sensational and scandalous. Draw attention to yourself by creating an unforgettable, even controversial image. Court scandal. Do anything to make yourself seem larger than life and shine more brightly than those around you. Make no distinction between kinds of attention. Notoriety of any sort will bring you power. Better to be slandered and attacked than ignored. Similarly to last episode, we're going to go into another story about P.T. Barnum. Barnum started off as an assistant to Aaron Turner, who was the owner of a circus. They stopped in Maryland for some performances, and on the morning of opening day, Barnum was walking around town in his new black suit when suddenly people started following him. Someone in that group of people yelled that he was the Reverend Ephraim K. Avery, who was a man that was acquitted of murder but believed to be guilty by most people. Think of O.J. Simpson. This angry mob of people tore apart his suit and were going to lynch him, but Barnum pleaded with them to let him convince them otherwise. He brought them to the circus where he could verify his identity, and once they got there, Turner told everyone it was all a prank. He was the one that spread the rumor that Barnum was Avery, and the crowd left him alone, but Barnum, he wasn't too happy about it. He was furious, actually. He asked his boss what would make him play such a joke on him, and his reply was, "My dear Mr. Barnum, it was all for our good. Remember, all we need to ensure success is notoriety." And they definitely achieved that because everyone in the town was talking about this joke and the circus was packed every night they spent in that town. Now, if you remember last episode, you would know how Barnum ended up buying the American Museum in New York. But now he had to get people inside. A beggar approached him on the street and instead of giving him money, Barnum gave him a job. He took him back to the museum and gave him 5 bricks. Yes, the kind of bricks you make houses with. He told him to make a slow walk around several blocks, and at certain spots he was to lay down a brick on the sidewalk, but always keep one in the other hand. On his way back, he had to replace each brick on the street with the one he was holding. He was also ordered to keep a serious face and not answer any questions. Once he got back to the museum, he would enter, walk around inside a bit, then leave through the back door and repeat this all over again. After his first walk around, a couple hundred people watched him like he was crazy, but after his 4th time around, people started grouping around him and curious as to what the hell he was doing. Every time he walked in the museum, he was followed by dozens of people who bought tickets so they could keep watching him. A lot of them got distracted by the collections in the museum and stayed inside. After the first day, the man drew over 1,000 people into the museum. After a few days, the police ordered him to cease and desist from the walks because the crowd started blocking traffic. He stopped, but the job was already done. Thousands of people entered the museum and became Barnum fans. A different tactic Barnum used was to put up a massive banner outside that said "Free Music for the Millions," with a band of musicians on the balcony overlooking the street. New Yorkers were thinking, what a generous guy, and who doesn't like free? Many people would show up. Barnum, though, he made sure that he hired the absolute worst musicians he could find, and after the crowd heard how terrible they were, they would all run inside and buy tickets to the museum just to get away from the noise and booing of the crowd. My favorite had to be when he bought the carcass of what was said to be a mermaid. It was a creature that looked like a monkey with the body of a fish. The head and body were perfectly joined together. Barnum did some research and found out that the creature was put together in Japan, where the hoax was a huge deal. He decided to use this to his advantage. He planted articles in newspapers all around the country claiming that a mermaid was captured in the Fiji Islands. He sent the papers prints of paintings showing mermaids, and by the time he showed the carcass in the museum, there was a huge national debate over whether they actually existed or not. A couple of months before Barnum's promotional campaign, Nobody cared or even knew what a mermaid was, but now everyone was talking about them like they actually existed. Crowds would show up in record numbers to see the mermaid and hear debates about their existence. Barnum knew the value of attention and didn't care whether it was negative or positive. He just made sure he was talked about. The quality of the attention doesn't matter when you're starting off. Barnum never cared whether or not his shows got bad reviews or people slandering his name for his hoaxes. There was one newspaper critic that got really mad and ripped into him, and Barnum made sure to invite that man to an opening and gave him the best seat. Sometimes Barnum would write anonymous attacks on his own work just to keep his name floating around. He was a showman, and the main ingredient of his success was attention. I was considering making this video about Soulja Boy, but while he is a master of getting attention, I don't think there is as much intentional planning and crafting of the entire scheme and character that someone like P.T. Barnum had. 6ix9ine fits that example much better and someone I would definitely call a showman. After all, P.T. Barnum ran a circus and 6ix9ine looked like a clown. It's the perfect match. And many of the techniques 6ix9ine was using even before he made music were drawing attention from hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Before 6ix9ine got all the tattoos, rainbow hair, and joining a gang, there are two specific instances that I came across where he went viral. I thought nothing of them at the time, but when I found out it was 6ix9ine, I went back and was shocked. The first was the way he used to dress. There was a photo that was viral on Tumblr and Instagram of him wearing a black t-shirt and black shorts with the words "pussy nigga" printed massively across them. This draws attention and makes people think, who the hell would ever wear something like this? It's definitely not positive attention, but it gets shared. It's something you just feel the urge that you have to share with someone. Another was a Vine where he did a wrestling move. I think it was a tombstone pile driver. I can't remember the exact move, so don't quote me on that. But it was on a girl, and this was huge too. A lot of people thought it was real, which is stupid, so that's one intriguing fact, but many people knew it was fake and just thought it was funny because for a guy to do a WWE move on a girl, it's not something you see every day online. It's incredibly rare, so when it does happen, it gets noticed. Then he came into the rap game. It's already been revealed that 6ix9ine was never really a gang member before 2017 and just joined that year. He had been caught dealing drugs and may have been affiliated, but he wasn't that kind of person. Young Thug already got enough shock and attention for being a faggot gangsta in hip-hop and wearing dresses, so 6ix9ine had to one-up that, and he did. He got 6ix9ine tattooed so many times, all over his body, and at the time had some of the most outrageous face tats in the game. And add on to that rainbow hair. You had a walking circus. Then there was the content of his music that was very aggressive and rapping gangsta stuff. There was so much contrast to it. You've never seen a person with rainbow hair and face tattoos, and you definitely have never seen one that raps. And he got a lot of attention, mostly negative, just making fun of the way he looked. Then there came the revelation by Trippie Redd of the thing with the underage girl, and he got the worst possible way to be smeared on planet Earth. His career hadn't even taken off, so how could he possibly recover from this? But he did. It gave him so much attention, albeit negative, but he channeled it and dropped Gummo, while also building a relationship with DJ Academics who allowed him to tell his story when no other media outlet would, and it was the perfect storm. 6ix9ine would never pump the brakes though. He planned a whole promotional campaign when he said LA was trash, and recorded videos, posting them on Instagram, taunting the gang members there, and he had them out looking for him like Where's Waldo when he had left days before. This wasn't necessarily negative attention, but it drew in a massive crowd of people who were on the edge of their seats and couldn't wait to see what would happen. Many of them wanting him to get jumped at the very least, but nothing happened. Think of it as a tightrope watch, somebody walking across a tightrope, and some people are there that they don't want to see him fall, but some people are there because of the possibility that he might fall. It was basically the virtual version of that. This happened again when he called out Chicago, mainly Chief Keef he had beef with, flying out his baby mama, but also saying he would pull up to O Block and nothing would happen to him. 6ix9ine did pull up and recorded a video and posted it on social media. It went viral again. People were trying to find out the exact time and everything, and they even pulled up security footage that showed he only got out of the car for 15 seconds at 3 in the morning. But he already got what he wanted, the attention from the situation, and his music was good enough that this was all working great for him. He went from being an absolute nobody to the most hated and now had a massive amount of both fans and haters, while also becoming the most talked about rapper on the internet in less than a year. One characteristic that allowed for 6ix9ine and Barnum to be able to do these stunts is knowing and acknowledging that getting attention was the end goal, and they were willing to do whatever it took. 6ix9ine had no problem making himself look like an absolute fool when he did that little singing skit with Tory Lanez. Was it Tory Lanez? Or was it August Alsina? Or no, Trey Songz. Most rappers are unable to make fun of themselves and take things too seriously, but 6ix9ine didn't care. Positive or negative, he loved the attention. He was much more likely to get paranoid or upset at waking up one day to no new followers or notifications than getting thousands of hate messages. With almost every chapter, there is a reversal, and this one is arguably the most important thus far, and it reads, "In the beginning of your rise to the top, you must attract attention at all costs. But as you rise higher, you must constantly adapt. Never wear the public out with the same tactic. There are times when the need for attention must be deferred, and when scandal and notoriety are the last things you want to create. The attention you attract must never offend or challenge the reputation of those above you. There is an art to knowing when to draw notice and when to withdraw. Never appear overly greedy for attention, then, for it signals insecurity, and insecurity drives power away. Understand that there are times when it is not in your interest to be the center of attention. When in the presence of a king or queen, for instance, or the equivalent thereof, bow and retreat to the shadows. Never compete." Certain tactics that seem desperate for attention is when Lil Pump, for instance, recorded himself giving a homeless man money. It was seen as a desperate attempt for attention, and people neither gave it positive or negative attention. It was largely ignored. But it's really important to talk about the last law in relation to this one, which was protect your reputation at all costs. It sounds contradictory to protect your reputation and get attention at all costs, but it depends on what your objective is. For instance, if you're an artist that's really into that retarded feminist ideology and being an absolute simp loser, if it ever comes out that you pimp slapped some hoe, you'll get massive attention, but it will likely ruin your reputation, if not your career. However, if someone, and we'll use a legitimate example being Famous Dex, beats the brakes out of his girl, or NBA Youngboy, nobody cares. They get a bunch of attention from the incident, but they aren't really hurt by it because their reputation isn't one of them being the most upstanding person. Some could say they would even be expected of this kind of behavior. Barnum, 6ix9ine, and even Soulja Boy aren't hurt by all their attention-grabbing stunts because their reputation is that of someone who entertains. And as long as they continue doing that, people will ignore outright lies or even scams because of the level of entertainment they get from them. However, there's also a massive downfall to this, and that is if you ever want to be taken seriously and trusted, it's not going to happen. It's important to weigh the pros and cons and see what kind of results you want to have, and if it's worth it on a person-to-person basis. For these guys, it was clearly worth it, despite two of them currently being locked up. I'll put a playlist of all the episodes of the series on the top right of the screen. Click on it and watch the other episodes. Let me know in the comments what you believe in attention. I'm sure there's a divide in people that believe there is bad attention initially. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Peace.